For many Twin Cities veterans, the Uptown VFW is home away from home.
So I've got friends.
Ask around here, and it's not hard to find veterans like James McLeodon,
Desert Storm, and in Operation Just Cause.
who've bought an actual home using one of the biggest benefits available to those who've worn our nation's uniform, the VA Guaranteed Home Loan Program. Here's why it's such a deal.
In addition to no down payment, these loans typically save you money due to competitive interest rates and limited fees charged at closing.
It's a fantastic program. I can't even tell you how many people would never have homes without this.
But Carol Levin Investigates has discovered the program, widely praised for opening the door to home ownership for millions of veterans, has a secret.
What I'm handing you is a report that came out in 2014.
The report originated inside the Whipple Federal Building at the VA's St. Paul Regional Loan Center, where it's been an open secret for years. But for veterans,
This is scary, man.
it's a bombshell.
This is sad. This is, wow.
Carol Levin obtained the internal VA report labeled Funding Fee Payment Analysis from a whistleblower. It summarizes research done by VA Loan Center employees here in Minnesota who discovered a nationwide problem. Between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on 47,588 loans.
Okay.
How it happened seems innocent enough. A veteran using the VA Home Loan Program is required to pay what's called a funding fee, up to 3.3% of the loan amount. If you're a disabled vet, that funding fee gets waived. But there's a glitch. If a veteran has only applied for a disability rating and the claim is still pending when they get their VA loan, they have to pay the funding fee. That can add up to several $1,000s. But if their disability claim is approved later, they're due a refund of that funding fee. But as the VA's own report discovered, that doesn't always happen. Remember, for just an 8-year period, it found the VA owes veterans $150 million in refunds. The report proposed an action plan to fix the problem and repay veterans.
So, what happened? It's been 5 years since this report was done here in the Twin Cities detailing a simple way to identify veterans due refunds. But VA insiders tell us nothing was done to repay those veterans known to be owed money.
If you're holding someone else's money and you're not telling them how to get it, you're doing it on purpose.
Carol Levin reviewed records showing the report landed on the desks of top VA DC leadership, including the then director of the VA's loan program, Mike Frew.
Getting a VA home loan.
Even though under his watch, veterans were not notified about the refunds they deserved, records show Frew received bonuses in 2014 and 2015 totaling nearly $25,000. And since then, Frew has been promoted to Chief of Staff for Veterans Benefits, where he makes $185,000 per year. We emailed him for weeks asking for an interview. He never responded. Then, 2 days ago, Carol Levin suddenly got an email from the VA press secretary that said, here is VA's comment. It was this press release. It states, a major issue under review is how VA credits borrowers who, after loan closing, were awarded disability compensation with retroactive effective dates. It also says they're now looking at millions of loans dating back to 1998.
Everything's all right.
Back at the Uptown VFW, it still leaves the million-dollar question. Will veterans owed money finally get paid back?
It's a $150 million question, actually. And that's just what we know.
Well, so far, we've already been able to help one veteran we work with get a refund on a loan from 2009. The VA just sent him this check. He sent it to me yesterday. It's for nearly $700. Among the reforms the VA just announced this week, they're going to be doing a better job, they say, notifying veterans up front when they get a loan about funding fee waivers and refunds. We've put detailed steps on how you can apply for a refund on your VA loan on KARA11.com.
I hope everybody that was in my situation could have seen your newscast. An update to a KARE 11 investigation tonight that's putting money back in the pockets of homeowners here in Minnesota and across the country. Here's AJ Legault with his continuing investigation, funding fee fiasco.
That's good news.
In Lakeville, Minnesota, the good news for Roger Roth was buried in an unlikely place.
Definitely.
All right.
Digging through stacks of home loan records, we determined the government likely owes Roger a debt.
$10,065?
That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
The nation's debt to Roger began in the 1960s when he enlisted in the Navy.
I served in Vietnam off of the Gulf of Tonkin.
He's had ringing in his ears ever since. In 2011, he applied for a disability rating with the VA, but it took years of appealing his denial before it was approved.
Approximately 3 years later.
In the meantime, you had refinanced.
Correct. Twice.
Since he got his VA home loans while his disability claim was pending, he's likely due a refund. Here's why. A veteran using the VA home loan program is required to pay what's called a funding fee, up to 3.3% of the loan amount. If you're a disabled vet, that funding fee gets waived. But there's a glitch. If a veteran has only applied for a disability rating and the claim is still pending when they get their VA loan, they have to pay the funding fee. That can add up to several $1,000s. But if their disability claim is approved later, they're due a refund of that funding fee.
That's money that's yours. You paid it.
Exactly.
But a KARE 11 investigation discovered veterans like Roger haven't always been getting those refunds. A whistleblower provided internal VA records that revealed a bombshell. Between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. Top VA officials in D.C. were warned, but sat on that information for the last 5 years, never notifying the veterans owed money.
But unless you asked for it, they didn't give it to you.
That's crazy.
Roger reached out to KARE 11 after seeing our report. His loan records show he paid a $10,000 funding fee on his first refi and another $1,590 on the second.
So you add them both together and, well, you can do the math. It's pretty close to 11.5.
That's not a bad refund.
That's a good chunk of change.
Roger has now reached out to the VA Loan Center, asking to be paid the refund that's rightfully his.
Well, thanks to you guys, I would have never known.
In Lakeville, for KARE 11 Investigates, I'm AJ Legault.
A federal inspector general has now weighed in, issuing this report calling the government's failure to pay home loan refunds to tens of thousands of families troubling and disturbing.
In Prior Lake, Minnesota, KARE 11's investigation found there's a lot on the line for homeowners Beth and Andrew Ganfield.
Over $10,000.
Yep.
$10,000 on their home mortgage that they should not owe. For the Ganfields, like most of us, that's no small fry.
That's a big deal.
Why is it happening? Andrew served our nation.
I was in the Marine Corps, 92 to 99.
So in 2012, when the Ganfields bought their house, they used the VA's home loan program. What they didn't know until watching a recent KARE 11 investigation is that VA leadership in D.C. was keeping a secret that was costing their family and tens of thousands of veterans nationwide.
I'm due a refund.
Internal VA records KARE 11 obtained from a whistleblower revealed a bombshell. Between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. The VA Inspector General, OIG, just issued a report backing up KARE 11's findings, concluding veterans may have suffered significant financial losses.
We're paying interest on it.
To understand why, you have to know about a line item in VA loans where it says funding fee. For the Ganfields, it was $10,197. You'll need to listen close while we explain why that's a problem. A veteran using the VA home loan program is required to pay what's called a funding fee, up to 3.3% of the loan amount. If you're a disabled vet, that funding fee gets waived. But there's a glitch. If a veteran has only applied for a disability rating and the claim is still pending when they get their VA loan, they have to pay the funding fee. That can add up to several $1,000s. But if their disability claim is approved later, they're due a refund of that funding fee. But Carol Evans' investigation found all too often veterans were not getting those refunds, falling through the cracks.
I'm one of them that did.
But it wasn't just a simple mistake. Carol Evans reported top VA leaders, including Chief of Staff for Veterans Benefits Mike Frew and Loan Program Executive Director Jeff London, were warned about the problem back in 2014, but failed to act. The Inspector General calls it troubling and disturbing that they did not protect these veterans' financial interests. And what's more, because they failed to act, veterans continued to be overcharged. In all, the report estimates at least 72,000 veterans were overcharged by more than $286 million.
They could have let us know 5 years ago.
After seeing Carol Evans' investigation, Andrew called the St. Paul VA Loan Center.
Hello, Mr. Ganfield.
And got this message back.
It appears that you are probably due a refund for the 2012 loan.
Had you not made this report, we would have never been the wiser. And it would have just been money gone.
For weeks now, we've been asking for interviews with the VA officials responsible. They haven't been willing to talk, but the VA says it plans to have corrective actions in place by July 31st.
Congress is demanding answers in the wake of a Carol Evans investigation that revealed homeowners nationwide are owed hundreds of millions of dollars in refunds the government never bothered to tell them about. AJ Legault is here with the latest developments in his investigation, funding fee fiasco.
Well, Julie, members of Congress are uniting across party lines to send this letter to the VA secretary, giving the agency until tomorrow to brief them on what's being done to repay disabled veterans overcharged on their home loans.
Back in May, a Carol Evans investigation revealed the VA home loan program was secretly keeping hundreds of millions of dollars that should have been refunded to disabled vets.
I hope someone's listening and it gets fixed like now.
Congressional leaders now making the same demand. This letter to the VA secretary was written to raise significant concerns regarding hundreds of millions of dollars in funding fees owed to our nation's veterans. It was signed by a bipartisan group of 17 members of Congress from both the House and Senate, including the chairman of subcommittees overseeing the VA.
That's a big deal.
For veterans like Andrew Ganfield of Prior Lake, these refunds are not pocket change.
Over $10,000.
CARE's investigation exposed internal VA records that reveal between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. Top VA officials in D.C. were warned, but for the last 5 years, never notified the veterans owed money.
If you're holding someone else's money and you're not telling them how to get it, you're doing it on purpose.
The VA Inspector General, OIG, released a report this month calling that discovery troubling. The agency watchdog estimates at least 72,000 veterans were overcharged more than $286 million. Some of that money belongs to Navy vet Roger Roth of Lakeville.
$10,065?
That's a lot of money.
Now, members of Congress are requesting a briefing on the plan of action to repay veterans. They gave the VA a deadline of tomorrow to get them answers.
Congress is seeking to take quick action to refund nearly $200 million in home loan overcharges first exposed in a Carol Evans investigation. Here's AJ Legault with the latest developments in his investigation, funding fee fiasco.
What started as a Carol Evans investigation in Minnesota, revealing the VA home loan program was secretly keeping hundreds of millions of dollars that should have been refunded to disabled vets, now has members of Congress taking action.
It is very, very important.
Senator John Boozman of Arkansas is one of the authors of bipartisan legislation just introduced to ensure impacted veterans and their families are made whole.
The importance of introducing the legislation is to make sure that we fix the problem that you uncovered.
The measure sets deadlines for VA action and requires VA to set up an automated process to ensure in the future veterans who are due refunds on their home loans actually get them. CARE's investigation exposed internal VA records that reveal between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. Top VA officials in D.C. were warned, but for the last 5 years, never notified the veterans owed money.
To know it and then continue to do it, that makes no sense at all.
The VA Inspector General, OIG, released a report last month calling that discovery troubling. The agency watchdog estimates that at least 72,000 veterans were overcharged more than $286 million, most of it still not refunded.
OIG labeled this as troubling. Do you agree?
I agree totally. In fact, I would probably underline that and maybe go, an adjective further. This is something that is totally inappropriate. We want this money directly in the veterans' hands, which it should have been all along.
Senator Boozman, who chairs the subcommittee on appropriations for the VA, says there's going to be congressional hearings to fully get to the bottom of what happened and make sure it doesn't continue. Meanwhile, we've learned VA is planning to send out letters notifying veterans that they're due a refund by the end of September.
There's new information tonight on the number of veterans nationwide due refunds on their home loans. And a U.S. senator is publicly thanking the whistleblowers who exposed the problem. Here's investigative reporter A.J. Legault.
Congress passed a resolution declaring today, July 30th, Whistleblower Appreciation Day.
Everybody needs to be held accountable.
To mark the day, U.S. Senator John Boozman of Arkansas wrote a column. He focuses on VA whistleblowers who exposed a nationwide problem to CARE 11. Disabled veterans, like Roger Roth, overcharged on their VA home loans.
This is one of those instances where VA employees are the ones who found the issue and wanted to get it fixed.
You're exactly right. VA employees recognize that this was certainly inappropriate, to say the least. And again, it was pushed under the rug.
CARE's investigation, sparked by whistleblowers, exposed how VA officials, including Jeff London, currently the top man in the VA loan program, were warned about the overcharges back in 2014. Internal VA records at the time revealed between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. But for nearly 5 years, London and the VA did nothing to make sure those veterans were repaid, and the overcharges continued. The VA Inspector General, OIG, called that discovery troubling, and so have members of Congress.
To know it and then continue to do it, that makes no sense at all.
To date, VA officials have refused to answer CARE 11's questions. Questions about why they failed, year after year, to notify veterans who got overcharged on their VA home loans. But in a new webinar, Jeff London admits far more veterans are owed money than was previously known.
We are aware that approximately 130,000 veterans are due a refund. We have an aggressive plan in place to complete our effort to refund all veterans who are owed money by September 30th.
Congressional staffers briefed on the VA's plan to repay veterans say as of last week, the VA had already identified $242 million that they need to repay to veterans like Andrew Ganfield.
Had you not made this report, we would have never been the wiser. And it would have just been money gone.
Senator Boozman writes, I'm grateful for the whistleblowers who spoke up about this negligence. He cites their brave efforts to call attention to fraud, waste, and abuse.
Those thousands of dollars will make a big impact in many people's lives.
I think I can safely say to the whistleblowers behind our reporting, who have so far asked to remain anonymous, on behalf of the 130,000 veterans getting loan refunds, thank you for being brave enough to speak out.
More than $400 million. That's how much money disabled veterans here in Minnesota and across the nation are being repaid in the wake of a CARE 11 investigation. A.J. Legault joining us with the latest developments in his investigation called Funding Fee Fiasco. Hey, A.J.
Hey, Chris. Our investigation exposed how the VA was secretly keeping hundreds of millions of dollars that should have been refunded to disabled veterans. That's now changed.
The Department of Veterans Affairs spent the summer and early fall cutting checks like this one. Lots and lots of checks.
We are aware that approximately 130,000 veterans are due a refund.
That's Jeff London, the top man in the VA home loan program, acknowledging what a CARE 11 investigation had exposed.
I'm due a refund.
Disabled veterans like Andrew Ganfield do, in many cases, huge refunds on their VA home loan.
Over $10,000.
Yep.
Internal VA records CARE 11 obtained from a whistleblower revealed a bombshell. Between 2006 and 2014, VA inappropriately collected approximately $150 million on more than 47,000 loans. Other records prove top VA managers like Jeff London knew all about the problem for years, but did nothing to repay veterans, unless the veteran knew to ask for the refund.
It's mind-boggling that they felt the veterans needed to contact them as opposed to getting the money back to them.
Michael Missel is the VA's Inspector General.
They knew they were holding money that belonged to veterans, but never told them?
Correct.
Why didn't VA leaders address this?
We asked them that question, and they said it wasn't a priority for them.
It became a priority after CARE 11 began asking questions, and Missel's office issued a scathing report concluding veterans may have suffered significant financial losses.
This was a nationwide problem.
Congress quickly introduced bipartisan legislation to ensure impacted veterans were made whole. The VA itself took action, recently announcing it has paid back more than $400 million. VA Secretary Robert Wilkie said in a statement, this effort included loans dating back nearly 20 years. Our administration prioritized fixing the problems and paid veterans what they were owed.
Had you not made this report, we would have never been the wiser. And it would have just been money gone.
The average refund was about $4,000. Some were as high as $20,000. The VA also says it's instituted reform oversight measures to swiftly identify veterans due refunds in the future. Back to you guys.